welcome back to the 6 Degrees podcast for episode 7. My name is Zachary Lefebvre and I'm your host. Thank you for joining me again as I set out to have conversations with a variety of people, including musicians, small business owners, digital artists, creatives, and regular folk that all have inspiring stories. I've been really enjoying the process of hosting the podcast and learning more about the creative people in my circle. Every episode I'm trying to level up, and I hope you guys have been enjoying the conversation I have with each guest. In my 6 degrees, I know there are tons of first-class humans, and I figured it would be a great way to tap into the network, hear stories from all these talented individuals, and talk about the big plays they're making. The main goal of the podcast is to connect people, whether it be with sentiments of the pod or connecting on business. I just aim to fill these segments with fun and lighthearted conversations while diving deeper into our guests' minds. This week on the 6 Degrees Creative Podcast, we have the Knetics crew. At Knetics, these creative visionaries take otherworldly ideas and bring them to life in art form. They design and build kinetic sculptures that are simultaneously playful, mind-bending, and outstandingly engineered. After long last, it was nice to meet you guys at Lightning in a Bottle, and it's nice to meet the rest of you virtually. Thank you for joining me for episode 7.
Hey, thanks for having us, man.
Thank you, Zach.
Well, I just wanted to kind of start here. I know I've met a couple of you, but also just kind of wanted to give you a chance to each introduce yourself so that we can kind of learn a little bit more about your guys' individual creative journeys, and then kind of wrap that up with how you guys all connected and kind of brainstormed this business baby of Knetics. And whoever wants to go first can kind of start diving into their story.
I can go first. My name is Nicola Modershan. I was born and raised in San Diego, and I've always had a passion for engineering and the arts. Just growing up, I was always having a lot of fun, just creating things and collaborating with others. A lot of my education growing up in middle school and high school was always project-based learning. So I spent a lot of time working with teams and working together to create these really cool projects that we were able to display to our community and our families at the end of the semester. So I have a big passion for being able to create something, and at the end of the day, just show it to your community and really just take all that hard work you put in and really put it on the pedestal and just be able to appreciate it and kind of just honor the work that you put in and really just share that with your community.
Love
I'll
that.
go next. So, my name's Nico Meyer. I started doing art, I started doing public art maybe 8 years ago in grad school. Did some art calls that basically you can take a budget, you submit, you get paid basically to produce the art. So really low risk way of making gargantuan art. The first piece I did was 12-foot diameter. Which is just hectic for a first piece. I don't suggest it. But and then since then, just kind of picking away, doing different public art stuff around the country and trying to do small stuff. And go ahead, John.
Yeah, my name's John Shop. I've always been interested in art my entire life. I really enjoyed building skateboards and painting and drawing, and then shaping surfboards during high school. And then moving into engineering in college, I just always enjoyed expressing myself creatively. So working on projects like this has been awesome, and we've had a great time.
That's awesome. It seems like you guys have just a lot of complementary skills, and when you guys all come together, it seems almost what is that thing from Power Rangers? When all the ships combine, you create something super awesome. How did you guys all connect together to build Knetics? What are the foundations of that?
So I guess going way back, John and I went to high school together. So we were playing water polo. We did swim team together. And then I was just 1 year ahead of him. So I graduated and went to San Diego State University for mechanical engineering. And then a year later, I was happy to find out that he was going to join me there. So I always looked at John like a little brother, kind of, because I was 1 year ahead of him, and I always wanted to kind of give him the advice and tell him which classes to take, and we always had that really strong connection there. And so that's how John and I kind of became close, was just through school, and we just stayed in touch and had a lot of similar hobbies. And then Nico just recently got brought on the team not too long ago, back in August. I actually just randomly found Nico on Instagram one day, and I had last year I set a goal where whenever I found someone on Instagram or anywhere that had something cool going on, I want to just tell them, reach out to them and say, hey, what you're doing is really sick, like keep it up. So I reached out to Nico and said what's up, and then I found out he lived nearby, and we kind of got chatting, and the rest is kind of history.
That's awesome. The power of social media, honestly. I've connected with a lot of
Positive
people.
views.
Yeah, seriously. Like there's, especially like in this kind of day and age, there's a lot of thoughts that like kind of bring up, like talk about the negative of social media, which obviously they're always present, but being able to manage those, but to also just use it for the positive interactions too. And I think it's really important that what you said, Nicola, to like it's just really powerful when you connect with other artists or see people that inspire you, or just make you, or that you see their work is really cool. Like just reaching out, it's such a powerful thing, and then you just never know what might come up from it. And I think that's kind of how we connected. I think like I just posted some 360 camera photo, and like you reached out, said it was cool, and like we've been in contact ever since. So I think, yeah, a lot of those interactions go a long way. You just never really know like what might come of it. And speaking of, we'll still have to do some cool 360 stuff with the Super Neb in the future. But I know there's a lot that goes into bringing these ideas to life, especially like what you mentioned, Nico, like a 12-foot structure is, definitely a big piece of art to chew. But what are some of the most challenging phases of the project cycle, and what is the most rewarding? And you can do a specific instance, if it's a Super Nebula is on the forefront of your mind. But yeah, I know there's a lot going into it. So what are some challenges of the project cycle, and yeah, what's the most rewarding?
So we're a team kind of based thing. I did a lot of the kind of rendering side of it, design side of the big piece, and then so making sure all that works is like a one big giant kind of mess. It's always easier on the computer than to build it in real life. And you start putting it together and you realize the challenges. Just like forgetting that your hand can't fit in every space. That's one of those things. But and then like we got excited about 3D printing the arms, and they were stuck gluing giant arms and printing them all and then piecing them together, and the challenges that come with that. I'll let them speak about their own like challenges, but for sure the most exciting part, I sent them a video when I first did it, but I think I had one or two arms, and I had two arms, and the first time we put the arms on and had it spinning, it was pretty glorious, realizing that it was all working.
You guys were spinning too when you saw the first ones going.
Yeah,
we did it.
2 a.m. Yeah, it's working.
What about you, John?
I think there's a lot of challenges that we had during the process that were really interesting. I think a lot of the time you think something's gonna work and you kind of fall in love with an idea, and then you're actually doing it and you're like trying to make it work because you don't want to change directions, and then you're like, well, I put all this time into this idea, and if I switch directions, I'm starting over, and I learned how to make this kind of work. So I think making the transition from giving up on an idea or really sticking to it was like one of the hardest parts of this project specifically. But my favorite part would just be the positive impact and like the things people tell you, because you spend so much time looking at a sculpture and then people seeing it for the first time of a much different idea of your creation. So that's my favorite part.
Yeah, I think for me, like the biggest challenge is being able to take all these crazy and brilliant ideas and trying to distill it down to what's actually feasible and what's going to make the biggest impact. And I feel like sometimes I get carried away and I have all these different ideas and I want to do all of them. And sometimes John and Nick have to pull me back in and say, hey, like that's a little too much right now. Let's kind of slow down and baby steps, And so I think we have a really good dynamic there where we all kind of bring something different to the table and we all kind of balance each other out. So it was really fun working on this project. We started back in, I think, like October when we first started kind of planning this out. So it was a good 4 or 5 months for this project. But I think the most rewarding thing is like what John said, just you spend all this time and effort building it and you're just so focused and you're in the weeds. And then just sitting back and watching other people interact with it is just the most incredible thing ever. I had this vision. I wanted to make our sculpture more interactive. We brought it to Lightning in a Bottle last year, and there was a lot of great things that came from it. But one thing was people were a little too hands-on. It broke quite a few times, and I was like, well, how can we make it so that people can interact with this in a way that's not touching or breaking the art? So I came up with this idea to put these big red buttons. I mean, who doesn't like a big red button? And basically each button would control the lighting in different ways. And then as kind of like a team building exercise thing, I wanted to kind of create some sort of an aspect where people could work together and collaborate on something. So when you press all 3 buttons at the same time, it would activate this really cool light show. And it was so awesome. There were a lot of times where I was just kind of sitting in the distance, watching people play with the buttons and having a good time. And I really wanted people to meet new people and say, hey, like, come press this button, and kind of join their group and interact with other people they maybe wouldn't have originally. And there were many times that I got recruited to press some buttons, and I don't think they knew that I was the creator of it, but it was just so awesome, like being a part of that and like watching it play out in that way. It was amazing.
Yeah, man. I can only imagine, like, yeah, just being in the software, getting everything ready and being so focused on all the little details that kind of just letting go and letting, letting the nebula do its thing in its natural habitat. I think I ended up running into you guys while you were, just observing from the sides at the picnic table late at night at Lightning in a Bottle. And it was just so perfect because I saw it unfold just the way you described. And like, it was cool to see you guys interact with the people interacting with it. Like I could see how proud you guys were, and just like how much fun how much joy it brought you guys. So I can imagine that it's just like got to be so rewarding to finally see it come to life. But speaking of, I know you guys have probably done a lot of work on the front end to minimize the risk of anything, and I think it's such a great idea that you had the red buttons. But how do you guys go about like that challenge of, you want people to interact with it. You also want to achieve the vision of, people being able to touch it and be close, but also like maintaining its safety and like the integrity of the structure. Is there kind of like a way to minimize the damage to it, or is it kind of just some collateral, the more interactive that it is?
So in this case, we built, so they learned from the previous lib. That was before I was on board. And we were trying to figure out how to keep people from grabbing the arms and shaking them and damaging it in that way. That still happened, but we did build like that whole white platform that you saw at lib. We built that basically as an artistic stanchion. It was an integrated way that becomes kind of a feature rather than a bug in the system. Other people had stanchion around their piece, and it from a distance, it just doesn't look good. So we were trying to find an artistic way, and we spent a lot of time, a lot of effort building that. We had some initial ideas to light it from the inside, basically have like kind of a secret, like crazy dynamic projector type show with lights on the inside, but the frame kind of didn't quite work out aesthetically. So we stuck with the external lighting and the color mixing on that white fabric. That was our game plan, and it mostly worked.
Yeah. So kind of like moving forward, how do you guys see like the nebula evolving? I think what a cool idea to incorporate like a projector. I know some ideas, like you said, might seem good in theory or in program, but like, what are some ideas that you have for the future of Super Nebula?
You want to start, Nicola?
Sure, yeah. So when we built this one, we actually were doing a little bit of future proofing. It was Nico's idea. We were building this sculpture, and Nico was like, well, what if we just took the existing sculpture and just mirrored it on itself and put arms on both sides? So it's, instead of 12 arms on one side, it's 12 on each, and they're rotating simultaneously. And we were like, duh, that's a brilliant idea. So we kind of provisioned for this sculpture to be able to do that in the future. So that's kind of one area we're going to be pushing into in the next few months, is trying to figure out how we can basically make it a double. and it can go horizontal. And I think it would be really cool as like as all the lighting and stuff and stages get so much crazier. It's like how much light and how many lasers can you really put in, you know? And I think it's kind of cool to dial it back and kind of go back to the roots and have some really cool mechanical real things. And I think that would just be a really awesome way to implement that one. We're also looking at some other opportunities that are in the works right now, and I'd love to share more information once we kind of get that a little more settled in. But a few different places we're looking to install some of our pieces and do some custom installs as well.
Awesome. Well, I mean, that kind of segues well into my next question. My understanding of, patents and design and engineering is very, very limited, but I'm sure you guys had to go through quite the process to receive those. Can you talk more about the process and like how it shapes the way you create and do business?
Yeah, so the patent process, I'll say right now, I was just out of college. I was a little bit young and naive, and I just thought it would be. I always had a dream of having a patent. I mean, I think any engineer would kind of see that as a really cool thing to have on their belt. And so we kind of dived into that with one of my friends that I started earlier on with this. We went into that process, and we basically submitted a provisional patent. A non-provisional patent. No, sorry, provisional patent. It's confusing. You basically do a provisional patent, and then it's kind of like a placeholder. And then once you actually file, you get like a non-provisional. But basically, I worked with one of my close friends, his family friend who's a lawyer. And if you ever have some time and read the patent, it's a great way to fall asleep. It's the language is just so difficult to follow, but when you really pay attention to it, it's quite its own beautiful art in itself. But the patent process was basically, we started that, and then it was basically like 2 years until we even heard back from the patent office. And my patent lawyer was telling me that traditionally it's a negotiation, right? You kind of say what you want on the patent, and then the patent reviewer comes back and says, hey, well, you can't really say this, and this isn't really good. You have to change this. And so it's kind of back and forth. But somehow we got really lucky, and the patent reviewer just said, yep, you're all good. So we didn't really have to do much else from there. And it was kind of just a done deal at that point.
That's awesome. For something like your guys' work, the installation and the kinetic type of art, was there like any sort of like competition of like existing structures that you had to like maneuver around, or was it pretty straightforward? Like, I mean, you guys definitely are one of a kind, but I imagine there's got to be some sort of like parallel. Like, are you not able to use the same verbiage as, say, like another similar structure, or like, or was your guys' patent so specific that you guys kind of stand on your own?
So I guess traditionally what you would do, and I didn't do this because it's a little more expensive, but usually what you would do is just research and find out where the gaps are, and if there is anything else that would kind of overlap with what you're trying to do. But we thought it was pretty unique in itself, and we'd only seen one other person doing something even remotely similar, and it was actually like after we had applied for everything. So we had looked online, and we really didn't find anyone else doing it. So we kind of just went ahead for it and just kind of hope for the best, and it seemed to work out for us.
And sometimes you got to just dive right in. And I love that it worked out. I mean, sometimes that's how you learn the best. That's kind of what I did with this podcast. It was just like, you know what, I'm gonna just do it, even though I don't really know what I'm doing. But it's been really fun, and it's been working out. People seem to enjoy the conversations, and I enjoy them as well. But that's super cool. And it's, yeah, what a feat, like you said, for an engineer to get a patent. I imagine it's just such a good feeling. So really, congratulations on that, you guys. I feel like that's just such a big win. And 2 years to wait, is also just kind of like, you could probably feel like you're in limbo. How did you guys stay like motivated during that time?
Honestly, it was kind of like one of those things that just happened. And then, I mean, I was busy focusing on some other things, trying to develop other products and working on some other sculpture ideas. And it kind of just was, I mean, it's such a long period of time. You kind of just forget about it. And you're like, well, it'll come when it comes. And we got a call from the lawyer, I got an email, and I was like super stoked. And yeah, it was pretty awesome. We actually just got it. I think it was issued, was it April 5th or something? So not too long ago, just a couple months back.
That's awesome. And this has been also a pretty big year, it seems like, for you guys. I know we kind of touched on lightning in a bottle, but you also set up at Wonderfront. It's just so cool to see you guys making the rounds and making that impact. You know, hundreds and thousands of people like at these festivals that get to see it. It's so wonderful to see, like you said, people's first initial reactions, people using it as a meeting spot, people taking photos of it with it. You know, just like eyes so wide, they're like, it really kind of instills like a childlike wonder in them. It's really cool. How do you go about preparing for, say, like an event like Wonderfront? Different vibe. Do they kind of play, and compared to LIB, do they kind of like, do they place you? Do you have a say in where you'd like to be? Is there a little bit of collaboration between you and the festival for like biggest impact of the structure, stuff along those lines?
I think it really
Wonderfront, I
depends
mean, John
on.
can speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really depends on the event. At Wonderfront, we had a little bit of say, I would say, but then you show up and they're like, event planning is so chaotic that they're like, oh, go here, go there, or things kind of get switched up. But I'd say for Wonderfront specifically, they were pretty open to our opinion and kind of wanted to put us in the right spot. And we ended up right on the top of a hill, so you could see it from really far away, which was really nice. I think Lightning in a Bottle is a little bit has a lot more like art going on, so they weren't able to focus as much on us, but I think they still put us in a really great spot, and I think they kind of focus to bring all the art in one area, and I wasn't as involved with Lightning in a Bottle. Maybe Nicola can speak more specifically to that, but it really depends. Depends on the event.
Yeah, I would say Lightning in a Bottle was more of like they curated kind of where they wanted everything to go. They're trying to manage a bunch of different art in the same area and kind of maintaining its own space and its own presence. But
Yeah.
Wonderfront, they were like, we want you around here and make as big of a presence as you want. Is what the vibe I got.
Yeah, well, I honestly, yeah, I could tell, I could imagine that Lightning in a Bottle has a little bit more specific vision since it is a little bit more like artsy based. But it was really cool to, I did so many laps around that venue at Lightning in a Bottle that I would always walk by the Nebula on my way back from Woogie to Lightning, and it was just always so fun to just like pop by and see people enjoying the sculpture. And speaking of events, I'm excited to have you guys at the next event that I'm throwing at Connect, which will be super duper awesome. And really excited that the Nebula will be there, as well as some mini nebulas. Can you guys talk about the mini nebulas and like the process that goes into the minis? Is it kind of like the big, just a little bit less intensive as far as like assembling, or is the process different?
So it's kind of interesting. Like with the big sculptures, you're making these really massive parts, but you're only making it once, right? With the smaller sculptures, it's almost a different thinking because you're trying to make something that's going to be reliable, that's going to work for a long period of time, and you can make a bunch of them, and they're all the same. And so there's a lot of engineering that goes into that. Just making sure that all of your all the fits and all the different components you have are going to work and play nice with each other. There's a lot of trial and error and iteration in that, and I'd say they're kind of similar, but in different ways. I mean, with the big one, you spend a lot of time on the small things, and on the other one, you kind of spend a little bit of time on a lot of things, and you're kind of jumping around and always changing and iterating and testing things out and scrapping ideas and coming back to it. Um, a funny story is actually the Nebula, the original design of the mini one. I actually built that thing in 6 weeks. There was a little bit of a time crunch for some other things going on, and I wanted to get it done, and it kind of just happened. And those first ones that I built are actually the ones that we've been bringing to Live and all of our other shows. So they've been around for almost a little over 2 years now, and I haven't had to fix any of them. I haven't had to. I mean, we've dropped them off tables. They've gotten kicked. They've been thrown. They've been through the ringer for sure. So it really is just a testament to trial and error and really just kind of getting the engineering right. And nothing's more rewarding than designing something that does what it's supposed to do and it holds up to the test of time and can really withstand the abuse from festivals, passing around to people, throwing it, getting knocked over. So that's really what we want for our pieces here, is to make them really durable and something that's going to last a lifetime.
Yeah, I think that's so awesome to for people to like experience the nebula on a large scale and then to be able to kind of like minimize it and like give people the experience of the nebula in their own hands or in their own home. Are there any like plans to like sell the mini nebulas?
Yeah, so we actually just started a wait list on our website. So you can join our wait list for $4.20. Basically,
Oh,
just
really?
put you put you in the front of the line. So once they're available, we'll let everyone know. And right now, it's really 90% done. We had a lot of custom manufactured parts. The new ones are going to have a full metal exterior. So we had to build some custom tooling and get some parts manufactured. We actually got them delivered like right before we left for Lib, and it was so fun unboxing it and looking at all the parts that we had spent months working on and just kind of fine tuning. So we're really excited to kind of jump into the build on that and finish up the last few components. Primarily just software and some electronics things. Most of the mechanical work is pretty much done.
Well, that's super duper exciting. For people that are listening to this podcast, Kinetics, $4.20. You can get a mini nebula, get on their list. I mean, I'm going to get a mini nebula. I've been eyeing it for a while, so I'll have to check it out. But that is
Let's just get things straight here real quick.
Yeah.
Technically, it's the regular one. We don't like small shaming people here. It's average, okay?
Yeah.
The nebula is the nebula.
It's the original
super nebula
nebula.
is the super nebula. At
Nebula
some point in
regular.
time, we will make a mini version of the nebula, and that's going to be like one you could put on your car dashboard or something like that. So it's the regular nebula, just to be clear.
I'm glad we were able to clear that up here. Just the regular nebula. Perfect. But I can't wait for the car nebula because I want that thing to be dancing while I'm at a red light, while I'm also dancing. So I know you guys there's a lot of moving pieces with, you know, the installations and everything. Obviously a lot of the back end stuff, but what are some exciting projects that you have going on right now, looking to the future now that you have some of these festivals behind you guys? Anything behind the scenes that you guys are really excited about, and that you can share with the people?
We have a couple like initial things that are brewing, but it's a little too premature to kind of talk about just because it's not solidified quite yet. But we're in talks with a few people around the world.
Oh, cool. Knetics goes international.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds super exciting. Yeah, it's been just so cool to finally connect with you guys, and been so cool to finally see some of your structures out in the wild. As far as, is there anything else that you might like to share? I know we kind of covered a lot, and we covered a lot kind of fast, but yeah, if there's anything else you guys would like to share about the process or dive into anything that I might have missed, feel free to add anything. But if not, then that's cool too. I kind of asked all the questions I got. And honestly, some of these, like, I love these conversations. Like, I know you guys have a lot of exciting stuff going on. I know we have a little collab going on in the future. So this is just part one, but I would always love to have you guys back as you guys continue to grow, continue to do cool things. But I'm just so happy to have been able to have you guys on for this episode to kind of just dive into a little bit more of who you guys are, how you guys got to where you are now, and just a little bit more about the nebula.
I think I do want to bring it back to Wonderfront real quick. So one of the things that was quite nerve-wracking, we were a little bit behind on schedule, and so we kind of pulled a 24-hour weekend like the weekend before, and Nico's up in Temecula, so he drove down to San Diego on the Wednesday right before Wonderfront. And it was actually, the festival started on Friday morning. And so Wednesday we arrived on site and we were actually still building the sculpture. There were a lot of components that weren't finished yet. There were some things that had issues we had to fix. And so it was I think it was what time? It was like midnight at on Wednesday when we ran the sculpture for like the first time ever. So it was on site at the festival, and it was there's nothing bad. We all looked at each other and just kind of were laughing. We were like, I can't believe we were able to pull this off, just the last minute send. And sometimes you just got to trust your gut and know that you're going to do everything you can to get there. And when you're there, you're going to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like stress is good, but also, or, like shows that you care, when you are getting to an event, but also I think there's just like a fair balance of like, yeah, you do the best you can. You guys put in so much prep before. So many of things, especially like you said in the event business, come down to the wire. There's so many last minute changes. Things can break, whatever it might be. But yeah, I as a creative, you just gotta send it. you just gotta try. Trial by fire sometimes, or calculated fire. But in the end, things tend to work out, and even if they don't, it's always a good learning experience. But it's been really great to see the success you guys have had, and it's been really cool to just see you guys at these festivals, and it's just really cool to see how proud you guys are, and to see the impact that it has on the people at these festivals, because people will be talking about it. Oh my God, that jellyfish thing really tripped me out whenever that person pressed the third part of that button and started wigging out on lights. It's just such a fun thing to behold.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys. Well, yeah, that's about all I got on my end. But like I said, I would love to reconnect here in the future, and we can dive into a little bit more specific stuff. Maybe I'll do some research on patents and try to pick your guys' brains about all the cool engineering stuff and all the software, because I am very intrigued about all that. But I don't want to sound silly, but I did learn quite a bit already. So, and I am really excited to be partnering with you guys for the event July 20th at Shift in Ocean Beach. It's called Coalescence, and yeah, it's going to be a good group of people, a good group of creatives, artists. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, really looking forward to that, guys. And thank you so much for taking the time to be part of the 6 Degrees podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
It'd be awesome to meet you in person.
Yeah, for sure. Well, at the end of I'm doing Electric Forest at the end of June, and then July 1st I am back and hitting the ground running in San Diego. So only a short amount of time, and would love to connect with you guys back home.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Yeah, we'll be setting up the Super Nebula for your event, and that'll be a super fun time to get it going. We don't really have any events planned like immediately after, so we'll probably leave it set up at Connect for a bit. So if anyone wants to check it out, we have his younger sister there, the disco tiled one from last year, in the front display case, and then we'll be setting up the newer one in the back of Connect in the gallery area. So check out that, and there might be some fun new lighting, and maybe I'll bring the buttons back and set them up in there too.
Epic. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm gonna put your guys' Insta and ways for people to connect with you guys here in the post edit, but it is Knetics, Knetics. And so yeah, give these guys a follow. Check out all the cool art that they're doing. Stay in tune, and yeah, come check out their structure at one of our events coming up. Sweet, guys. Well, thank you again. I hope you have a good rest of your evening, and catch up with you in a bit.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Awesome.
See you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.